Hail to you, awesome viewers! Welcome to the very first episode of this series, The Wisdom of Warcraft. I'm your host, Alexander Mark Olekshuk, or if you don't remember that, just use my initials, A-M-O. Anyway, to get on with it, the World of Warcraft is a game I have quite the history with. I've played it on and off since the days of its open beta, just prior to release. Now, let me be open here and say that I've never been an elite WoW player. Never been an endgame progression raider, never gotten any world first boss kills, or earned any real rankings in PvP to speak of. Since the days of vanilla, I've dabbled in raiding, going on the occasional runs with friends who were more into it than me, or in the more recent versions of WoW, LFR. So yeah, filthy casual here and proud of it. But in truth, that aspect of the game has always appealed to me the least. Really, I can't say that I play games for that reason. With certain exceptions, I don't generally play games to be competitive or to feel a sense of any real accomplishment. I usually play RPGs to relax, to immerse myself in the characters, the environments, to lose myself in the story. And in that regard, WoW has always been magnificent. With its wide open world, diverse settings, and fluid interface, the World of Warcraft has always been an easy one to immerse yourself in. My history with WoW has generally been this. With every new expansion, I'll play for a while, level up a few characters to the max, do a number of dungeons, follow the storyline, do some raiding, and then eventually I stop playing, cancel my subscription, and do something else. Usually until the next expansion comes along. Call it burnout, boredom, or whatever. It's varied from occasion to occasion. Most of the time in WoW, I've played on the Alliance side. The side of knights in shining armor, cute gnomes, and beautiful elves. I mainly started playing Alliance at launch because, well, that's where my friends decided to go. And I've mainly stayed there throughout the expansions due to momentum, because that's where my characters, my banks, my gold were, my guilds, whatever. Even though, initially, I do admit that the Horde had a bit more of a pull for me. This time, with the launch of the new expansion Legion this past fall, I decided to vary it up a little. I finally decided to roll a character on the Horde side, deciding to experience that half of WoW. This time, I played it a bit differently too. I decided not to rush to max level, but to enjoy myself, to experience the lovely world of Azeroth for all it's worth. To experience the journey, to see the world through the eyes of my character, and maybe experience a bit of wisdom in the game, if such a thing exists. But in all truth, I'm probably not the best person to talk about this. And so I've brought, all the way from the world of Azeroth, through the power of my sorcery, my character himself, Tauren monk Gavyananda. Gavyananda, are you paying attention? You there, man?
Oh. I'm sorry. I suppose you've caught me deep in my meditation. Hold on a moment. Ah, greetings, my creator. And to you, people of the world, I bid you a fine welcome.
Here we have, in the flesh, brought to you by powerful magics beyond the comprehension of mere mortals, my World of Warcraft character. He'll be here narrating his journeys for us, talking to us about his adventures in the world of Azeroth and beyond, while offering wise anecdotes from his own life.
Wise? Well, I don't know about that. Though I suppose I have acquired certain understandings on my journeys. But, as they say, one man's wisdom is another man's folly. Still, I suppose I do have some things to share with all of you. And I suppose that's why you brought me here, to get to it. So I'll begin, well, at the beginning. Let's get to this. My infancy and childhood were inconspicuous enough. I was a simple calf, my birth not predicted by any prophecies, or foreshadowed by any miracles or unusual incidents. I was not born with glowing golden eyes, or even any unusual birthmarks. I was raised on the rugged plain of Mulgore, coming to age among its windswept meadows and prairies. To foreigners, Mulgore is often thought to be a land where life is simpler, a place of hunters and gatherers, where the main struggle is one of survival, bereft of such concerns as politics, philosophy, or personal drama. In part, foreigners would be correct, though they do tend to oversimplify things. The Tauren are, or rather were, an isolated people. While we had our wars with the Quillboar or the Centaurs, our intertribal conflicts, our existence was mainly one of peace. The land, in my youth, played the dual role of provider and adversary. It provided us with food, with water, with shelter, but none of it was free. We had to fight for it, to strive for it. Life was a constant struggle, and while there are many Tauren who like to talk about being at one with the land, it was never easy. Yet perhaps because of this, because of all our struggle and conflict was on the outside, in our daily lives we seldom had the time for the inner conflict that we see so much of in the cities and the towns. With self-doubt, judgment, blaming, and squabbling over petty issues. I've often speculated that perhaps this is why the Tauren always seem to have such a reputation for being peaceful. We simply never had the time for such small things. While I hunted with my brothers and did my part in defending our homeland, I must confess that a part of me never quite felt at home there. Whether in the outlying camps or in Thunder Bluff itself, which for years was the only city I knew. I would do my chores in the day, of course, but at night I would dream of a different life altogether. The land strange and exotic, foreign to my waking eyes, filled with unusual people and surreal sights. I would dream of an isolated hermitage far up in the mountains, larger than any Kalimdor had to offer, and awoke with vague memories of masters who spoke to me of topics far removed from my day-to-day struggles. I felt both at home and out of place among my own people, a kind of walking contradiction for most of my youth. I loved Mulgore. I loved being among the Tauren, and still do to this day. There is a beauty to the land, a rugged, pristine feeling. It is a place and a people connected to the elements, to this world in the most pure way. I would often go up into the hills and look over the lands, just sit out upon a rock and view the world around me, detached from any worries, thoughts of my role within that world. I would breathe in the grass-scented air, feel the gentle wind upon my forehead, look down as life meandered along in the prairie, as the birds flew overhead and the wildcats hunted their prey. I'd watch as the herds of Kodo, strong and yet serene, made their ways along paths their ancestors had used since time immemorial. Life went in cycles there, as it does in all places. Births and deaths going back before even the Tauren walked these lands. It was in the simplicity and patterns of nature that I first learned to be at peace, in watching the vast panorama of the world spread before me. I began to develop a feeling that there was much more to existence than the tiny little slice of life I had been born into. I felt connected to the world, to the elements, to nature, a part of it all, and yet at the same time, not. After all, I reasoned, if you can observe something, that cannot be you, not the entirety of you at least. I began to feel a profound sense, connected and yet detached from the world around me. There was a true and perfect beauty to it. Yet I knew that this place was not my destiny, not the fullness of my life. Still, I did my duties here, and did them well enough. When I finally came of age and became a bull, I was sent to train, battling the incursions of quillboars and hostile wildlife that had been plaguing our land for some time. Violence appears to be what defines our world. Everywhere it is a struggle for survival, a struggle for dominance and supremacy. On the isolated plains of Mulgore, it was the Tauren versus the ever-present quillboar, or harpies. Beyond was the Horde versus the Alliance, our world against the Burning Legion, or whatever. At first a part of me felt that killing was wrong, that the taking of a life is somehow unnatural, somehow evil. Yet, then I looked at nature itself, the constant battle of predator and prey. Even the gentle deer becomes a violent monster in the eyes of a plant. So as I fought, and I fought, I began to look at it this way, that there is nothing noble, or good, or honorable in battle, no matter what some might say. It may be seen by some as necessary, a part of the world, a part of nature and existence. If we are to look at the world as a game, we might say that violence is a large part of that game. If peace exists, then it must be an inner peace, to be found beyond the game, within oneself. Still, in those days I had not found such a peace. I was a seeker still, searching for something I could not define, something I yearned for with all my heart, and sought with all my soul, yet which I could not name. I did not find it in the serene beauty of Mulgore, nor did I discover it in the role the world had given me. Though I fought and I quested, worked and did my duties, there was still that empty feeling within. And still, at night I would dream of those vivid visions of a foreign land, and a master who called to me, and I knew, when I awoke, that my fate lay elsewhere. Thus I departed my homeland and signed up for service with the Horde. A great change was upon our land, a cataclysm that was altering the landscape itself and devastating many communities. There was a need for warriors and for adventurers. Thus I bought my ticket to Orgrimmar and began working with our allies, the orcs,